Imagine reaching into your pocket for some loose change and realizing too late that you just brushed your fingers against a fortune. Not a lottery ticket, not a rare gold bar, but a single Lincoln penny. A 1956 no-mint mark wheat penny that, under the right conditions, has stunned collectors with values soaring toward $1.7 million. Yes, a tiny copper coin that most people ignore could be the key to a life-changing discovery. And the strangest part is this. It doesn't look special at first glance. It blends in. It hides in plain sight. And that's what makes this story so unbelievable. Before we get to how to identify the real one, let me take you into the mystery behind this coin, because nothing about it follows the rules. Picture the United States Mint in the mid-1950s. Machines clattering, copper blanks being punched by the thousands, workers hustling to meet demand as America's post-war economy explodes. The year is 1956, and wheat pennies are reaching the end of their era. Something unusual happens that year, something only a handful of insiders ever whispered about. Because for reasons still debated today, a tiny number of 1956 pennies left the mint with extraordinary qualities, striking errors so sharp, so dramatic, so unmistakably different that the surviving examples became the stuff of legend. But the public didn't know. No press release, no announcement. These pennies slipped into circulation the same way a shadow moves across a wall, quietly, unnoticed, completely ordinary to the untrained eye. And that is where our story gets emotional, because for decades people spent these pennies on coffee, newspapers, and parking meters. A few may have passed through your own childhood piggy bank without anyone ever realizing it. Imagine someone tossing away $1 million coin without even looking at it. That idea alone sends a chill through your spine. Now let's reset your attention, because what I'm about to tell you could change the way you look at every coin you own. The value doesn't come from the date alone. The year 1956 with no mint mark, meaning it was made in Philadelphia, is common by itself. Millions of them were minted. So what makes one of them worth over $1 million? Two things: an extreme, dramatic double die strike and pristine, untouched condition. The rarest examples show doubling so sharp on the date, on the letters of liberty, and on "I in God we trust" that it almost looks like two images overlapping each other. Not blurry, not faint. Crisp, clean doubling that leaps out like a ghost image burned into the metal. Hold a real one under magnification, and the doubling looks almost supernatural. The one in 1956 appears split. The letters in Liberty take on a shadowed twin. Even Lincoln's profile shows subtle doubling in the most valuable examples. And because only a microscopic number of these error coins survived without scratches, dents, or discoloration, a perfect specimen can rocket in value to jaw-dropping levels. That's where the $1 million figure becomes real. That's where life-changing discoveries begin. Now imagine someone discovering one in a forgotten jar of coins. That actually happened. A collector sorting through an old family tin nearly fainted when he spotted the doubling, so perfectly formed it looked like a minting miracle. Overnight, the coin transformed from ordinary pocket change to a verified treasure worth life-altering money. But here's the part people never talk about. What if even rarer examples are still out there? What if one of them is sitting in a box in your home right now, untouched, unnoticed, waiting? Let's reset your attention again, because I want you to know exactly what signs to look for. First, the date must read 1956 with no mint mark beneath it. That means the space under the year should be completely blank. Second, you need a jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass. Look at the numbers carefully. The doubling will not be vague. It will appear strong and bold. Check the letters in Liberty. A true double die shows clear separation lines, almost like two versions of the same letter carved slightly apart. Look at "I in God we trust." The doubling can appear across the entire phrase. If the features look smudged or fuzzy, that's machine doubling and worth far less. You want clean, separated images. That's the key. Next, check the fields of the coin, the smooth areas. The $1 million examples are extremely sharp and free from major damage. Even a small scratch can reduce value dramatically, so condition matters. If you find strong doubling and a clean surface, you may be holding something so valuable that professional grading is your next step. And yes, grading companies have authenticated $1 million pennies before. They do it every year. And collectors with deep pockets fight hard to own them. Now let's reset once more, because this part matters emotionally. People always imagine treasures as things someone else finds. They assume million-dollar coins only appear in museums or locked collections. But the truth is, some of the most valuable coins ever discovered came from everyday people. A cashier, a retiree, a teenager sorting pocket change, a father cleaning out an old toolbox. The universe doesn't pick favorites. It hides wealth in the most ordinary places and waits to see who is paying attention. Think of how many 1956 pennies you've seen in your life. Think of every handful of change you've ever dumped into a cup holder or a coin jar. Any one of those could have carried the doubling we're talking about today. And because so many people overlook pennies, these rare survivors continue to slip through the world unrecognized. That's why collectors call coins like this sleeping giants. They are silent, underestimated, and capable of exploding in value the moment someone finally recognizes what they actually are. Another attention reset, because I want you to feel the weight of this. The 1956 double-die wheat penny is not just rare. It's not just valuable. It's historical. It's a snapshot of a moment when minting technology wasn't perfect, when a single mistake created a handful of treasures destined to confuse experts and excite collectors for generations. When you hold a coin like this, you're not just holding copper. You're holding the result of chance, time, and survival. And that emotional connection is what makes collecting so powerful. Now picture this. You open an old drawer, maybe one you haven't looked inside for years. Papers, batteries, old pens, maybe some forgotten coins at the bottom. You take one out. It's a wheat penny. You turn it toward the light. The date hits you first. 1956. No mint mark. You lean closer. You see something strange about the numbers. Something off. Something doubled. Your pulse rises. Your hands shake a little. Because suddenly the idea of a life-changing discovery doesn't feel impossible anymore. It feels real. Then you grab a magnifying glass. You look again. The doubling is clear. Sharp. Perfect. Your stomach flips because you remember hearing that only a handful of examples like this exist. For a moment, the room around you disappears. It's just you and this tiny coin that might be worth more than everything else inside that drawer combined. Another reset. This feeling is exactly why collectors fall in love with coins. Not because they're small pieces of metal, but because every single one carries a story. And sometimes that story ends with $1 million landing in the hands of someone who simply took the time to look closely. If you have a collection, a jar, or even a single old penny tucked somewhere in your home, check it. Don't assume it's worthless. Don't assume someone else already owns all the valuable ones. Because history has shown that treasures like the 1956 double-die wheat penny do not care where they end up. They don't need velvet-lined cases or museum lights. They pass through gas stations, yard sales, and piggy banks. They wait quietly in the dark until the right pair of eyes finally sees them for what they are. You're digging through a handful of old change, bored, half distracted, when suddenly, one ordinary brown penny catches the light just a little differently. At first you think nothing of it. But what if I told you that a single 1971 penny, with no mint mark at all, has been documented selling for as high as $1.8 million? And what if the next person to make that discovery is you? Let's slow down for a second, because the truth behind this coin is stranger, quieter, and far more unbelievable than most collectors realize. Somewhere in the early 1970s, when America was shifting from the turmoil of the 60s into a new era, an unnoticed mistake happened at the Philadelphia Mint. A tiny detail, invisible to most people, but worth a fortune to the few who understand its power. Before we dig into that, I want you to imagine this story the way I first heard it. A collector told me he had been chasing pennies for decades. Nothing special. The usual wheat cents, the occasional double die, maybe a proof set here and there. But one day, while sorting through what he swore was just junk change, he found a 1971 penny with no mint mark. He didn't think anything of it until he looked closer and noticed something odd in the lettering, something almost trembling in the light. That tiny detail changed his life forever. His voice cracked when he told me the story, and honestly, it shook me, because here's the secret. Not all 1971 no mint mark pennies are rare. You might have hundreds pass through your hands in your lifetime. But one specific version is so incredibly scarce, so unbelievably elusive, that only a handful have ever surfaced. And that handful unleashed a wave of disbelief across the collecting world. Let me reset your attention for a moment, because what I'm about to tell you is where the million-dollar difference begins. Imagine the dies used to strike pennies. They're carved with microscopic precision. But every once in a while, during the hubbub of mass production, one die comes out flawed. Not broken, not shattered, just flawed enough to create a special kind of doubling. A doubling so crisp, so distinct, that it sends chills down the spine of anyone who knows what to look for. This is what collectors call the 1971 double die obverse. No mint mark because Philadelphia didn't use them at that time. At first glance, it looks like any other penny. But under a magnifier, the letters Liberty split like a shadow trying to separate from itself. The date 1971 looks like it's echoing, and the word trust appears as if engraved by trembling hands. That doubling isn't soft or mushy. It's bold, dramatic, clear enough to make you stop breathing for a second. Some of these coins, in pristine condition, have gone for over $1.8 million. Yes, $1 million. Paid for a penny most people wouldn't bend down to pick up on the pavement. Let's take a breath here. Because the idea that something so small, so common, can suddenly be worth more than a house, a retirement fund, and a luxury car combined, it almost feels like fate playing a trick on us. Every collector has a moment that changes them. Maybe it was the first time you saw a silver coin gleaming in a roll. Maybe it was a childhood memory of sifting through your grandfather's jars of pennies. For me, it was the realization that true treasure isn't buried in oceans or hidden in tombs. It's sitting in the places we forget to look: pennies, pocket change, drawers, glove compartments. And the 1971 no mint mark double die is the perfect example of this silent magic. Let me reset your attention again. I want you to imagine holding your own 1971 penny. You tilt it under the light. Now check Liberty. If those letters look doubled, sharp, clean splits, that's your first sign. Next, look at the date. Is the 1 split? Is the 9 doubled? Does the 7 look like it's hovering? Then check I in God we trust. That motto should almost look as if a ghost version is sitting just behind the real one. That if you ever see that, don't hesitate. Don't toss it aside. Don't assume it's nothing. That's when you grab your loop, your gloves, and your calmest breathing, because you might be holding a life-changing discovery. Some collectors say moments like this happen once in a generation. Some say you could search for years and never find one. And that may be true. But here's the inspiring part. Every great coin discovery in history was made by someone who thought they wouldn't be the one to find it. Someone who brushed off doubts and kept searching. Someone who looked at an ordinary penny and believed it could be extraordinary. And when you realize that a single coin, one tiny, overlooked copper piece, has fetched over $1 million, it changes the way you look at everything around you. It reminds you that value hides in silence, that fate whispers, that miracles don't always announce themselves. Sometimes they're brown, dirty, and stuck to the bottom of a jar. Tonight. When you get a minute, check your drawer. Check that old coffee can you've been ignoring. Check the jar on your dresser you haven't touched in years. Because one coin, one forgotten little cent, could rewrite your story in ways you never imagined. You're holding a coin so ordinary, so familiar, so forgettable, yet it carries a secret powerful enough to shatter everything you thought you knew about pocket change. A tiny copper piece born in 1975, with no mint mark, hiding in the shadows for nearly half a century. And today, collectors whisper that one of these elusive pennies could be worth over $1 million. And yes, it might already be in your home. Now picture this moment. You dump your loose change onto the table after a long day. Pennies roll, clink, scatter. You barely look at them. Why would you? They're pennies. But among them, there could be one coin that isn't like the rest. One coin the mint never intended to keep hidden. A 1975 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, carrying a mystery that has baffled collectors and sparked rumors for decades. Before we dive into what makes this coin so valuable, let me reset you for a second. Stay with me, because the next 60 seconds might be the difference between overlooking a life-changing discovery and recognizing the treasure that could rewrite your story. The year is 1975. The U.S. Mint was preparing for something big, the nation's bicentennial. Quarters, halves, and dollars were all getting dual dates, 1776 to 1976. But pennies? They were supposed to stay simple. Just 1975. But here's where the story starts getting strange. Rumors began spreading among old-school collectors about a handful of 1975 pennies struck with prototype dies, test pieces, coins the public was never meant to see. And what made them stand out wasn't some fancy error. It was the absence of something that was supposed to be there. A mint mark. Now, normally, a 1975 penny from Philadelphia has no mint mark. That's standard. So why does this matter? Because the whispers are about something rarer, something different, something almost impossible. A tiny run of experimental coins struck under unusual conditions, coins that were supposed to be destroyed, coins that, if they exist, would be among the rarest modern Lincoln cents ever known. Reset your attention. Take a breath. Ready? Because here's where the real chase begins. Collectors believe these rare 1975 no-mint mark pennies may have been struck using early transitional materials, a blend of leftover bronze planchets, test dies, and experimental striking pressure. If one of these escaped into circulation, it would be unlike any other penny from that year. And when something is that unique, collectors start using big words, like $1 million big. Not hypothetical money. Real, life-changing, buy your dream truck, pay off the mortgage kind of money. So how do you know if you found something extraordinary? You start with the basics. First, the date, 1975, clean and sharp. No mint mark under the date. That part is normal. But here's the key, the weight. A standard 1975 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams. But the rumored test pieces? Many believe they may weigh slightly differently, sometimes heavier, sometimes lighter, depending on the experimental planchet used. If your scale shows anything unusual, even by a fraction, don't ignore it. That small difference could mean everything. Reset again. Focus. Because more clues are coming. Look closely at Lincoln's portrait. These rare test strikes often have extraordinary detail, sharper lines, deeper impressions, almost like Lincoln is stepping off the coin. That's the result of experimental dies, the kind used before final production. Then check the rim. Some collectors report odd rim thickness, slightly off-center strikes, or deeper than normal edges. Nothing dramatic, just subtle signs of something not meant for circulation. Now flip the coin to the reverse. The Lincoln Memorial should be crisp. The steps, the pillars, the lettering, everything unusually sharp. These weren't meant to be thrown into grocery store change. They were test pieces, and test pieces often look too perfect. But there's one more detail that separates rumors from reality. Under magnification, some collectors claim these rare pieces show tiny markers, micro scratches, faint doubling, or unique die polish lines that only appear on prototypes. If you spot something strange, something that feels off, something your gut tells you shouldn't be there, trust that instinct. Many million-dollar coin discoveries start with a simple moment of curiosity. Let's reset again. You're doing great. We're heading into the heart of the mystery now. Why would a 1975 penny be worth this kind of money? It comes down to rarity, story, and survival. If even one authentic test strike escaped the mint, just one, it instantly becomes a modern treasure. A once-in-a-generation collectible. Something bidders will fight for at auction. Something that turns an ordinary American penny into $1 million overnight. Think about that. A coin you could overlook 1,000 times. A coin tossed into jars, glove compartments, and shoeboxes for 50 years. A coin almost invisible until it isn't. Now imagine being the person who finds it. Imagine the moment the scale shows a number you didn't expect. Imagine spotting unusual details, sharper lines, a strange rim, the kind of perfection that doesn't belong in pocket change. That moment, that realization, that surge of electricity through your chest. That's the feeling every coin collector lives for. Reset. Stay with me. You might be thinking, why haven't we seen one yet? But the truth is, history is full of coins that took decades to surface. The 1943 bronze cent. The 1974 aluminum cent. The 1969 double die. All of them hid in pockets and jars before someone finally recognized their value. So the idea that a rare 1975 test strike is still out there isn't impossible. It's actually very likely. And if one exists, its value would explode instantly. $1 million territory, without question. So here's what you do. Tonight, tomorrow, this weekend, whenever you get a moment, go through your pennies. Every single one. Check every 1975. Weigh them. Examine them closely. Look for unusually sharp details, unexpected weight, strange rims, or anything that tells you this coin wasn't meant for circulation. The difference between an ordinary penny and a $1 million rarity can be just a sliver of metal, a tiny imperfection, a test mark left behind by history itself. And here's the part that keeps collectors up at night. The odds say someone, somewhere, already has one of these coins in a jar or drawer and doesn't even know it. That person could be you. That discovery could be yours. That let's do one final reset, because this moment matters that you've just learned what to search for. You know the date. You know the weight. You know the details that separate ordinary from extraordinary. And you know that these rare coins, if they surface, will instantly become $1 million stars in the collecting world. All that's left is for someone brave enough, patient enough, and curious enough to look. You're sitting at your kitchen table, sorting through a handful of old change, when suddenly you realize one of those ordinary brown pennies might be worth more than the house you're sitting in. Because hiding in plain sight is a 1968 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin so rare, so unbelievably valuable, that collectors have paid over $1 million for the right one. And the craziest part? Most people have no idea what they're looking at. Now before we jump in, let me set the mood. The year is 1968. The mint has just come off a period of chaos. Coin shortages, design changes, new presses. In the middle of all this controlled madness, a few mistakes slip through. Tiny mistakes, silent mistakes, mistakes nobody discovers for decades. And one of those mistakes created a penny that shouldn't exist, a penny with no mint mark, and a value nobody could have ever predicted. That let's reset for a moment. Imagine finding a coin so unassuming that you flip it between your fingers without a second thought, only to later learn you were holding a $1 million treasure. That's the power of the 1968 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny. And people who ignore it, they almost always regret what exactly makes this penny so special? It comes down to where it was made. In 1968, Philadelphia stopped putting mint marks on pennies as the standard. But Denver and San Francisco? They marked theirs. The mystery begins when a small batch of pennies identical to the Denver strike appears, but with no mint mark. These weren't from Philadelphia. They weren't supposed to exist. And to this day, collectors argue about how they slipped into circulation. Reset your attention again. Focus on this. If you find a 1968 penny with absolutely no mint mark at all, and it has the specific look of a Denver die, you might be staring at the rarest penny of the decade. The kind worth life-changing money. How do you identify the right one? Start with the date. You want a sharp, clean 1968 on the obverse. That's Lincoln's portrait side. Now look beneath the date. If you don't see AD, and the area looks perfectly smooth with no trace of removal or tampering, that's your first good sign. No scratches, no tool marks, no distortion, a naturally clean field. But don't stop there. Turn the coin in the light. Look for a strong strike. Denver was known for crisp details. Lincoln's hair should show texture. His coat should show definition. The lettering should be bold. Weak, blurry details often mean Philadelphia, but a razor-sharp, no-mint mark penny from 1968? That's when the excitement starts creeping in. Take a breath. Reset again. Because we're just getting started, flip it over. The reverse should show the Lincoln Memorial with clear columns and a clean roofline. Look especially at the steps. Weak steps equals common. Strong, sharp steps equals suspiciously rare for a no-mint mark. That difference alone has turned pocket change into $1 million fines. And here's where the emotional punch hits. People throw away fortunes because they think they already know what their coins are worth. They assume every 1968 penny is the same. They assume nothing special ever lands in their hands. But the truth? Some of the greatest discoveries in numismatics were made by ordinary people who simply stopped and looked a little closer. Let me reset your attention one more time. Imagine this. A man in Ohio once bought a jar of pennies from a yard sale for $5. Inside were multiple rare transitional errors, coins nobody believed could still be found. All because he bothered to look. The 1968 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny has that same aura, that same potential, that same ability to transform someone's luck overnight. But let's paint the full picture. Condition matters more than anything. A 1968 no-mint mark that's scratched, dented, or heavily worn is interesting, but not valuable. The $1 million examples are almost museum quality. bright, clean, sharp, and original. That's why collectors literally lose their breath when they see one. They know how impossible it is for a coin like that to survive this long untouched. Reset once again. Because the most important part of this entire story is coming up. When you're examining your 1968 pennies, compare every detail to known Denver strikes. If it looks identical to a D-mint coin except for one thing, the D is missing, and that missing mint mark wasn't removed by a tool. That's when you get it authenticated. That's when your heart starts pounding. That's when experts start whispering. Because they know what you might have found, that's when $1 million doesn't sound like exaggeration anymore. And here's the inspiration behind all of this. Treasures are still out there. They didn't disappear. They didn't get scooped up by museums or elite collectors. They're hiding in pocket change, in jars, in shoeboxes, in drawers, in cars, in basements, in attics. They're waiting for someone with enough curiosity, someone like you, to uncover them. Point one, last attention reset. A quiet moment. Just you and the pennies in your hand. You don't need luck. You don't need connections. You don't need a metal detector or rare equipment. All you need is awareness, knowledge, the willingness to look twice instead of once. That's how $1 million discoveries are made. A single coin, ordinary to the untrained eye, lying quietly in a jar of change on your kitchen counter. You glance at it, toss it into your hand, and it gleams like any other penny. But what if I told you this exact penny could be worth over $1 million? Yes, you heard that right. One coin, hiding in plain sight, with a value that could change your life forever. It's a 1976 no mint mark Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks like every penny you've ever seen. Copper, worn edges, Abraham Lincoln staring back at you with his timeless gaze. But the story behind this coin is anything but ordinary. Imagine the journey it took. Minted during the United States bicentennial celebrations, quietly slipping through the hands of history, surviving wallets, coin jars, and decades of everyday transactions. Somewhere along the line, it escaped notice. But collectors who know the secret will tell you. This coin is worth a staggering $1.20 million. That the mystery begins in 1976. The U.S. Mint was busy producing billions of coins for the country's 200th anniversary. Special designs, commemorative sets, and, of course, standard pennies for everyday use. But a tiny batch slipped through the cracks, pennies minted without a mint mark. Normally, coins produced in Philadelphia bore no mark, but in 1976, with the mint producing so many different coins for the bicentennial, these unmarked pennies became incredibly rare. Few survive today in pristine condition, and the ones that do carry a story, a silent witness to history, and a price tag that could make you a millionaire overnight. Now, let's get personal. I remember the first time I held one of these pennies. It was in a dusty old coin shop, hidden beneath a pile of seemingly worthless change. The shop owner didn't know what he had. I felt my heart race as I examined it, flipped it over, ran my fingers along the rim, and saw that unmistakable shine. At that moment, the ordinary transformed into extraordinary. That coin wasn't just copper. It was a doorway to a different life. And right now, one could be sitting in your pocket, your drawer, or your coin jar.so. How do you identify it? The first thing to know is the date, 1976. But that's only the beginning. Most Lincoln pennies from this year will have a small D for Denver or S for San Francisco. The rare ones from Philadelphia carry no mint mark at all. That tiny absence is what separates a 1-cent coin from a $1 million treasure. Examine the surface closely. Look for wear patterns. This coin may have circulated, but it retains sharp detail on Lincoln's profile. The lettering should be crisp. The copper should carry a certain depth, a glow that only decades of careful minting can produce. Hold it up to the light. Let your eyes trace every line. If it's a genuine 1976 no mint mark penny in the right condition, you've got a piece of history in your hand, and potentially a ticket to a life-changing fortune. Here's the twist. Even seasoned collectors sometimes overlook it. It doesn't shout or sparkle. It doesn't promise millions on the surface. Its power is in subtlety. That's why attention is everything. Every coin you touch could hold the secret to unimaginable wealth. Every time you dump your change into a jar, there's a chance, a real, tangible chance, that a $1 million penny could be mixed in with your quarters and dimes. It's like a hidden treasure waiting to reveal itself. Think about the emotions tied to this discovery. Imagine showing it to a loved one, holding it up, and watching disbelief turn into joy. The life you've imagined, the financial freedom you've dreamed of, could be just one coin away. The story this penny carries, from the mint to your hands, is a narrative of patience, timing, and fate. It's not just a coin. It's a testament to the surprises life can hide in plain sight. Attention resets now because here's something collectors often miss. Condition matters. A penny tucked away in a dusty drawer for decades could actually be more valuable than one that's circulated heavily, even if both are from 1976. Look for coins with minimal scratches, intact rims, and clear details. The sharper the features, the closer it is to that million-dollar valuation. Even a coin that looks ordinary at first glance could turn into a fortune in the hands of someone who knows what to look for. Let me tell you about one of the rarest cases I've seen. A collector found a 1976 no-mint mark penny tucked inside an old cigar box, forgotten for 40 years. When it was authenticated, the news spread like wildfire. That single penny, sitting quietly for decades, was worth over $1 million. Can you imagine? One moment it's just a coin, the next moment, it's a life-altering treasure. And it all comes down to knowing the date, spotting the missing mint mark, and understanding the value that history has assigned to it. Now, think about your own coins. You might be dismissing them, flipping them for snacks or spare change, completely unaware of what's hiding right under your nose. Every 1976 penny you come across could carry the same potential. That's why you must examine each one carefully. Patience, attention to detail, and a trained eye are your greatest allies. Learn the feel, the look, the subtle differences that set this penny apart from the rest. This isn't just collecting, it's hunting for history. Here's the part that makes it even more dramatic. These pennies aren't just rare because of numbers. They're rare because so few people recognize them. Most collectors are searching for more obvious treasures. They're chasing coins that flash, coins that scream value. But the 1976 no-mint mark penny hides in plain sight. Its rarity is invisible to the casual observer. That's the secret. And that secret carries a $1 million price tag. Let me remind you again. This coin could be anywhere. In your change jar, in a box of old coins, in a forgotten drawer. You might have passed it over hundreds of times without a second thought. And yet, one lucky inspection, one careful glance, could reveal it. The power of discovery is intoxicating. The thought that millions could be hidden in your home, right under your fingertips, is what keeps collectors like us searching, dreaming, and hoping. Every minute you spend looking, every coin you examine, is a step closer to history, to wealth, to the unimaginable thrill of holding a $1 million penny in your hand. And the story doesn't stop with the find. Owning such a coin connects you to collectors worldwide, to the mint's history, and to the rare moments in life when ordinary objects become legendary. The journey of this coin, from 1976 to your hands, is a reminder that magic exists in everyday objects. If you know how to look.so now, take a deep breath, open that coin jar, and examine your pennies like a treasure hunter on a mission. Look for the 1976 date. Look for the absence of a mint mark. Examine every detail. Sharper edges, intact surfaces, a quiet shine. These are signs that you may be holding something extraordinary. And remember, this is no ordinary coin. This is history, fortune, and possibility rolled into one tiny copper disc. This is the moment where dreams meet reality. The 1976 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just a coin. It's proof that incredible things can be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone patient, observant, and persistent enough to notice. Your search, your curiosity, your careful attention, they could all pay off in a way you never imagined. This coin carries more than monetary value. It carries the thrill of discovery, the joy of history, and the life-changing potential of holding a $1 million treasure in your hand. You think your pocket change is just that, spare coins jingling in your pocket. But what if I told you that one of those coins could be worth over $1 million? That's right. Hiding in plain sight, a 1975 D. Lincoln penny could change your life forever. It sounds impossible. But history is full of moments where ordinary coins became extraordinary treasures. The story of this penny begins back in 1975, a time when America was on the brink of change. Gas lines, music festivals, and the rise of collectors unknowingly set the stage for one coin to become a legend. Most pennies from 1975 were just that, pennies. They bought candy, stamps, or the occasional soda. But the D mint mark on this Lincoln penny tells a different story. That tiny D, barely noticeable to the untrained eye, marks it as a Denver Mint coin. Yet, there's something even more rare hidden in its details. A small, almost invisible error, a die clash or doubled die, can send the value skyrocketing. Imagine holding a coin in your hand and realizing it's one of only a handful in the entire country with this mistake. Your heart would race. Your mind would reel. This is not just money. This is history, tangible and small enough to fit in your palm. Identify a 1975 D Lincoln penny that could be worth $1 million. You need to look closely. Check the D mint mark on the coin's reverse side. Now, examine Lincoln's bust. Look for unusual doubling on the date or the letters. Compare it to a normal penny. The difference might be subtle, but for collectors, it's life-changing. A tiny misalignment or doubling could mean the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth over $1 million. It's fascinating to think about how many of these pennies were simply spent, lost in jars, or tossed into the bottom of drawers. Somewhere, out there, a coin worth $1 million is quietly waiting, unrecognized, unappreciated, and ready to surprise its finder. Some collectors discovered their fortunes entirely by accident. A man cleaning out his childhood drawer, a woman sorting coins inherited from her grandfather. Each moment a possibility for a life-altering discovery. It's a story of patience, attention, and a little luck. The 1975 D penny isn't flashy. It doesn't shout for attention, but its rarity whispers to those who know where to look. That whisper has made millionaires out of people who simply paid attention, who examined what most overlooked. If you think you're just holding change, think again. Take a moment to go through your coins. Look for that Denver D. Examine the date. Look for subtle doubling or anomalies. The clues are there if you know where to find them. Each detail, each tiny irregularity, carries the weight of potential millions. History also teaches us that coin errors are unpredictable. Some years, some mint marks, and some batches slip through quality control. This unpredictability is what makes the 1975 D Lincoln penny so compelling. No one expected it, and that's exactly what makes it priceless. The thrill of discovery, the possibility that one ordinary coin could transform your financial reality, keeps collectors searching, always searching. Imagine the excitement of realizing that the coin you've been tossing in a jar or letting sit in your change drawer might be worth more than a house. That thought alone is electrifying. And yet, this is precisely what has happened to a select few lucky collectors. This penny carries a story of scarcity, a story of history, a story of the ordinary becoming extraordinary. Its journey from mint to pocket, from everyday use to a potential million-dollar treasure, captures the imagination. Every scratch, every wear mark, every shiny glint is part of its narrative. So, the next time you're sorting coins, don't rush. Examine each one with care. Look for the D mint mark. Study Lincoln's profile. Study the date. Compare it to images of verified examples. Attention to detail is the key to unlocking life-changing discoveries. Even the most experienced collectors admit the thrill never fades. The tension of the search, the adrenaline of finding an error, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing you might be holding $1 million coin is unparalleled. This isn't just collecting. It's a treasure hunt with real stakes, where patience and knowledge can literally change your life. Remember, this isn't about luck alone. It's about awareness. It's about knowing what to look for and recognizing the subtle signs that turn an ordinary coin into a priceless treasure. The 1975 D Lincoln penny is rare, but not impossible to find. And every coin discovered becomes part of an extraordinary story that began decades ago, quietly waiting for its moment in the spotlight. So dig through those drawers, examine your coin jars, and pay attention to what might seem mundane. That Denver mint mark, that subtle doubling, that hint of history could mean the difference between a forgotten penny and a coin that could make someone a millionaire.